thank goodness we have the world's best interviewee here with us. Lauren Sprieser is our guest today, and we're talking about primarily USDF finals, but also important for that conversation is the pathway to finals. Like, how do you get there? Not just what is it, how does it work? So we'll cover as many bases as we can today, and no better person to speak on this topic, or probably any topic Lauren could speak on very eloquently. Lauren, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
My pleasure. I am happy to have a distraction from packing for this and the presidential election in the United States. Please God, distract me.
Oh my gosh. I know. My little heart has been pitter-pattering all day. But yes, I'm right there with you. When do you leave for finals?
I'm going to leave at the ass crack of dawn Wednesday morning, because on the first of all, I have to get there at such a time that I can school my horse. But also I have to drive right through Charleston, West by God, Virginia, which is the capital of West Virginia. And I'm not sure I want to be driving through the capital of West Virginia the day after the election, no matter how it goes.
Totally. So, yeah, it's a wild environment getting to finals this year, more so than others.
More so than usual.
Yes. And thoughts out to anybody who's stressed about the election. But
let's talk about ponies and ribbons.
Let's talk about ponies. So before we get started, I also want to thank Sloan Rosenthal, because she is such an angel, and Lauren loves her and coaches her, and I love her and have gotten to meet her because she's here in Colorado too. But the reason I especially want to thank her before this episode is because she and I were just text chatting. I think she invited me to a couple of clinics coming up, including one that Lauren's hosting. And I mentioned that we're doing this conversation with Lauren about finals. And she was like, well, I could really get into this topic, because lots of people kind of call her up and get insight on finals, but also it was her suggestion to make sure that we cover the pathway to finals. So Sloan's horses, it was a big load of them from her farm, left today. She leaves tonight on a flight. And between those two things and all of that chaos, she had a call with me to tell me what to ask on this, so that it's really valuable for all of you. So shout out to Sloan for doing the most, and hopefully making this conversation really helpful for people.
If you see my finger suddenly appear, it's because Sloan's notes are behind my phone.
Oh my gosh. She's
to make sure that I'm really telling you the right thing.
Running both sides of this for us, and we love her for it. Okay, so finals. Let's start with what are finals, and I know there's kind of a counterpart to finals called festival. So will you define those two things for us?
Sure. So we have two national championship tracks in the United States. One of them is, they are both recognized competitions. They are recognized by the United States Equestrian Federation, the USEF. But the Festival of Champions, which is a high performance track, is the USEF's baby. The USDF, United States Dressage Federation finals, are the USDF's baby. The USDF finals are a national championship where you qualify through the 9 regional championships. The United States is divided into 9 geographic regions. You qualify for the finals through your regional championships. The USEF Festival of Champions, usually referred to as Festival, has classes that are more geared towards high performance, both adult high performance and youth high performance. So the USDF finals, which are this coming weekend, have open, amateur, and a handful of youth national championships at training level, first level, second level, third level, fourth level, pre-St. George, Inter 1, that's where the youth stuff stops, Inter 2, Grand Prix, and then open and amateur finals for first, second, third, fourth, Inter 1, and Grand Prix musical freestyle. Phew. The festival has the National Youth Championships, the National senior championships, and the various young and developing horse classes. So here we go. 4-year-old champion, 5-year-old champion, 6-year-old champion, 7-year-old champion. Developing pre-St. George champion, that is 7 to 9. Developing Grand Prix championship, 8 to 10. Then children, ponies, juniors, young riders, children, really hard first level, ponies, third level trot, second level canter, juniors, super hard third level, young riders, pre-St. George. Those are also age limited. U25 Grand Prix, so that's 16 to 25-year-old kiddos at Grand Prix level, Inter 2 level. And the open, the senior intermediate 1 championships, so that's pre-St. George Inter 1 freestyle, and then the senior Grand Prix championships, Grand Prix Special, Grand Prix freestyle, also para-dressage championships, also medal final for the little kiddos and the slightly bigger kiddos for the dressage seat equitation. Phew.
Whew. That is a lot of competition happening. Tell me, I know you listed all the classes.
Yes.
Tell me if there's a difference in kind of the type of person who would find themselves at festival versus finals. Obviously, festival or final starts at training level, so there's a different level happening there. But tell us the different kind of types of people or horses that you'd find at each, and if there's overlap, so certain people are finding themselves at both.
There is certainly a little overlap in the open divisions. You will occasionally see an amateur. There are no occupational restrictions on the festival classes, the ones that the USEF governs. They are open to amateurs. Obviously, the youth divisions are restricted by age, but there's not a whole lot of other rules. But these are definitely horses that are on more of a high performance track. High performance being maybe one day these will go to the Olympics. So are there amateurs competing in those divisions? 100%, absolutely. Are there some overlap in, horses doing like the designated young horse classes to qualify for festival, but also doing like second level or third level or whatever these sort of adjacent levels would be to qualify for finals? Absolutely. But if you're a normal person and you have a normal, wonderful horse, we love our normal, wonderful moving horses, you are probably looking at finals and not festival. Festival is that like high performance, we think this could be a team horse track.
And I want to dig deeper into you loosely touched on how we qualify for finals, but before that, how do we qualify for festival?
So every division has their own rules. The youth division rules are a little different than the young horse division rules, are a little different than the open division rules, but the gist is that you have to do X number of qualifying classes. It's usually 3. The high performance stuff's a little different, and it has to be at designated qualifying horse shows. So yes, these are, regular recognized horse shows that also will have a training level test 2 and a third level test 1 division. But there are specific designated, sorry, something's on fire behind me, specific designated qualifying classes for these various programs. They overwhelmingly are classes judged by 2 judges. They are, of course, more money. And for the senior high performance stuff, for the Inter 1 championships and the Grand Prix championships, you also have to compete in at least 1 CDI. CDI, you're going to hear my terrible French, Compétition Dressure Internationale, not a language I speak. So competition governed by the FEI. This is like alphabet soup time, but the FEI is the Fédération Équestre Internationale. It is the international governing body of sport. CDIs are international level competitions with a lot of judges, and it's really expensive. And that's a whole nother conversation.
I didn't totally understand what a big ask I was making bringing you on for this topic. And I understand why you need some notes, because you're already proving to be kind of an encyclopedia, and it requires being an encyclopedia. So in these classes that are designated qualifying classes 4, we're still talking about festival. Do you qualify by getting a certain placing or a certain score?
You will be put on a national ranking list. This is also what makes the festival track a little bit more complicated, is that they are usually divisions where they're taking the top 12 in the country or the top 15 in the country. And so there's a fair bit of mathematics. Actually, there are some calculated risks. Everybody looks for shows where there are more optimistic judges, which is a stupid game to play, but I know people who have driven 15 hours to go to a horse show just to try and catch up with an optimistic judge, because you are competing against the whole country while qualifying at whatever shows are available to you, some of which may not have the most optimistic judges. But yes, your scores are tallied. There are every division has their own like minimum qualifying requirements. For example, I think they take the top 12 for the high performance classes, and I could be wrong about that. But this year in the Grand Prix Championship, there were 4. This year in the Inter 1 Championship, there were 6. So it was that there weren't enough people making the minimum qualifying criteria. And that is also a subject for another podcast. But
got it. Okay. And festival takes place at Lamplight. That's in Illinois.
Lamplight is outside of Chicago. It is in August. I think that they are accepting bids for it to go elsewhere. Man, Lamplight's great. The West Coast people are going to yell when I say Lamplight's really central. I know Oklahoma is central, but I'm sorry, Oklahoma doesn't have the resources. So I'm sorry that you guys have to come to Illinois. It is a bummer. It is unfair. Unfortunately, we live here and not in, the Netherlands, which is a country the size of Maine. So
right.
We live here, and you're going to have to schlep. And Lamplight's just it's a great venue. It has room. It has a lot of hotels. It has a lot of barns. It's set up for shows like this. It's a good venue.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So I think I have my head around how festival operates, who it caters to. Let's talk about finals. You mentioned the 9 regional championships can get you to finals. And
Yes.
You mentioned the levels that they can be at. How well do you have to perform at one of those regional championships to get to finals? And I'm guessing that certain regions are easier to qualify for finals than other regions, but correct me if I'm wrong.
100%. So let us go back to, how does one qualify for the regional championships? You qualify for the regional championships by achieving 2 scores at different competitions. You cannot do them in the same competition. You have to do them at 2 different competitions, the highest test of each level. And the various levels have their own minimum qualifying scores that are different between the open division and the amateur and youth divisions. So I happen to know off the top of my head that the training level open division, the minimum qualifying score is a 68%. The training level amateur and youth divisions, the minimum qualifying score is a 63%. So congratulations, you've qualified for the regional championships. Off you go. This is where I'm going to pull up Sloane's notes because I want to make sure that I get this right. Okay. The first thing you have to do is declare for the finals. Declaring is non-binding and it's free. It is a 2-second form that you fill out on the internet that says, I might be interested in going. There is no reason that you should not do this. You should do this. It takes 2 seconds and it obliges you to nothing. It is just a door opener. So you also have to declare by a certain date. Every regionals has their own schedule. For me, as soon as I've qualified my horse for the regionals, I go and declare for finals. Doesn't matter if I'm going. Doesn't matter if the horse doesn't make it to the regionals. Doesn't matter. I declare intent because it costs me 2 seconds of my time.
Once you get those 2 scores that are within what you're looking for, then you declare.
I declare. Okay. Because why not? Okay. So let's say that the date has come and gone, and so all of the people who didn't declare get the boot. Now, from that pool of people, the top 2 declared riders are issued invitations. So if you are first or second, you are getting an invitation. Congratulations. Now let's say that somebody who places first or second doesn't want to go. Then they go to third. Let's say that third doesn't want to go. They go to fourth. They keep going until they get the top 2. And in some regions, maybe no one declares. We very rarely see people from Region 6, which is Oregon, Pacific Northwest. Like that's a real long trip. Most people don't go. Whereas regions, I'm in Region 1, Region 8, which is New England, Region 1, the Mid-Atlantic, Region 2, which includes Kentucky, everyone's declaring. But that's not all. So for each level, there is also a wild card qualifying score. You all are watching me pull up my cheat sheet. The wild card qualifying score is much like the regionals qualifying score. It's different open versus amateur and youth, and it's different at each level. But if you get that score or better, it doesn't matter where you place, you get an invitation. So for example, I had said that training level open to go to regionals was 68. Training level open to go to finals is 72. If you place 40th on a 72.0%, congratulations, you're getting an invite.
And are we talking about if you get these scores at the regional championship?
Excuse me. Yes, this is in the championship class.
Okay.
So,
but we can declare before we're in the championship?
You can declare before you're in the championship. That is a simple piece of paper to fill out. And
those top 2, when you're looking for the top 2 in each region, we're looking at qualifying scores, not regional championship scores.
No, we're looking at regional championship scores. On the day of your regional championships, if you've been champion or reserve in that class, woo, you're going. From there, it is about whether you've gotten the wild card qualifying score. If you have, neat. Doesn't matter what ribbon you come home with, you get an invite. If you did not get the wild card score and you weren't first and second, then you have to hope that somebody ahead of you drops out. Phew.
Got it.
Clear as mud.
Now I am actually tracking. And if I'm tracking, everyone listening can be tracking. How long do you have to say, yes, I'm going, or no, I'm not, if you're 1 or 2? You know what? Ignore that question. That was a silly question.
So it's done by region. Every region has their own date. And I'm not exactly, it's a certain amount of time. Okay. They are on your ass to get it done that day. So like for me, at my regional championships, one of my classes was on Thursday and one of my classes was on Saturday. I entered Thursday because, and we'll come back to stabling in a second, but there are a few reasons that you want to enter early. I entered even before I was qualified for the second of the 2 divisions, because I just felt like it was going to happen, particularly after I'd gotten such a good mark on the first day. I sent in my entry that fast because I wanted to make sure that I met all the deadlines.
Okay, that's amazing. That's a pro move right there. So yeah, okay. You are a pro, literally.
I've seen this movie.
So with this understanding of how we can qualify for finals, is it fair to say that finals is definitely like high quality is the wrong way to describe it, but for lack of a better term, high quality horses and riders will be at finals, but it's also a place that would welcome maybe like breeds that aren't exclusively the fanciest of warm bloods, or, just the amateurs who are, have the fanciest of coaches or whatever it is. It's a possibility for others as well.
100%. One of my favorite things about finals, and this is one of those things that's going to make me sound vaguely like a dick, but I am in this high performance world and it's like go, 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 and it's all very serious. And then I get to go to finals and I get to see the lady that is there from wherever on the fjord, and she is so stoked because that is her Olympics. The second level adult amateur musical freestyle final is her Olympic Games. And it helps me pull my head out of my ass. It is so much fun being around people that are so stoked to be there. It's a cool energy to that show. I got an email that somebody's coach can't come, so I'm teaching somebody on an off-track thoroughbred.
Oh, cool.
I'm shitting for her coach. It is welcome to all.
I love that. Tell us, so you described how I've heard you just described it as some people's Olympics, and I've heard it described as like a bucket list item for a lot of riders. So it's a big deal. And will you describe kind of how it differs from normal competition? Maybe it's just like the air of like, we made it, we qualified to be here. Is there anything else about like the environment of finals that people would expect to be different from other dressage shows that they're going to?
Absolutely, and particularly for folks who are from, and I'm not being a snob here, I swear to God, but from the more far-flung parts of the world, of the United States, where maybe there are only a handful in any particular class at any particular local qualifying horse show that you might go to, it is an opportunity to see a lot of very good. And I find that inspiring. It could certainly also be a little intimidating, but it is easy when you're in your little pond and you're kind of a big fish in that little pond. All of a sudden you get punted into the ocean and it is another level. You will also see a fair number of big time people there. It is, it's not necessarily a destination for the people that are off making Olympic teams, but you'll see them. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're there coaching. And unless you are wintering in Wellington or wintering in Southern California, you may not be able to get access to people like that. You're not always able to see people like that at your local horse show in East Jesus, wherever.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense and is just sounds like a very fun, exciting place to be and to be amongst all of these people who made it there and many of whom made this big effort to get there because our country is so big. Is awesome. And I also feel excited just because we're talking about this as it's starting. Like a lot of people, like we mentioned, Sloan, are en route right now and this is about to happen. Are there any, as you describe, that it is kind of a different vibe? Are there any ways that you can help us avoid like faux pas if we haven't been to a big show like this before? Like whether it's etiquette stuff or turnout stuff, or is it just like bring your A game?
I think bring your A game is the way to go. And it is ultimately it's another national horse show. The rules are the same. You shouldn't behave like a fool in the warm up arena. You shouldn't be rude to volunteers. If you have questions, you ask people. One of the things that I love, because I am a snob, is that every good show manager in the country, that is the show management team. So this is the all-star team of show management, volunteer coordinator, technical delegates. It is all the best judges in the country. And that's very cool. It is run like a Swiss watch, which I have all of the love in the world, and I do big, big, big love for the local horse shows. God bless them, run by little GMOs and run by volunteers. Mwah, I love you. Also, it's really fun to go to something professionally run. Turnout rules are the same. Bring your best look. Make sure that your equipment is all legal. This year, they passed an extraordinary rule change, which is a rule change that is deemed so emergent that they start it urgently instead of waiting for the end of the year. And a whole bunch of people learned that their tack was illegal. Wasn't
Oh
that
no.
it's been a minute. It's been an exciting time. So go through your rule book, make sure that you are up to date on everything. But if you have made it to the finals, you have probably passed muster at the regional championships. You're also getting a pretty high level of technical delegate rule enforcers.
Okay, good to know. Let's shift into logistics because you mentioned entries, there's entry logistics.
Yes.
There's traveling logistics, stabling logistics. Let's start with entries. What tips do you have, being somebody who obviously has been to finals many, many times in many different capacities? What are your suggestions for doing your entry?
So declaring is free. Once you have competed at your regional championships and you would like to be considered to go, you then have to go through a process called nominating. That is also deadline based. That is not free. You want to nominate that day. Pull it up on your phone as you are coming out of your award ceremony and get your nomination done, because there is a deadline on that. Pro tip, nominate fast, 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 fast. You also want probably to try and get your stall in the indoor barn. And I say this, there are some people that don't, and they have their reasons, but November in Kentucky can be fun. I have experienced snow at this horse show. It can be foul, and they are slowly improving the barns at the Kentucky Horse Park, but the indoor ones are heated and can be sealed up and kept very comfortable. The outdoor ones are out in the wilderness, and they're real cold and they're real wet. There's some barn that a skunk lives in,
Oh,
apparently.
wow.
There have been multiple years where they shut the water off. They tell you they're going to do it before they do it, but they do shut the water off, because if it freezes and explodes, that's very bad. So those are, there's X number of indoor stalls on the property. They divide by 9, and that is how many each region gets. If you are the first guy to enter, great. If you're not the first guy to enter, you may not get that heated stall. So entries early, get them done if that is what you choose to prioritize.
What does nominate mean? Is that like second step of declaring, like you got this, you were one of the first 2 and now you raise your hand and say, "I'm gonna do it"?
Oh, this is where I'm referring to Sloane's notes. I think declaration, the declaring thing is saying I might want to go. The nominating is saying I do want to go for sure.
Expect my entry.
Expect my entry. And what I am referring to Sloane's notes on this. Within 96 hours, thank God for Sloane. Within 96 hours of the conclusion of your regional championships, you must nominate your horse to compete at finals and pay a nomination fee if there is any chance you might go. That is, if you were in the top group of declared riders in your region, or you earned a wild card score. That's and it's urgent. Like, it is true. 96 hours. It's not that long.
Wow.
So do it. And that's the first time they ask you for money. So be prepared to give them your money. It is not a small amount of money. It's a couple $100. This is not an inexpensive horse show. Brace for impact, buddies.
That's a good point. Is it double other horse shows?
I'm in a ballpark. My entries alone for 2 classes and my stall at about $1,000.
Wow. And then you factor in everything else. Okay, good to know.
Being away from your life for the
Mhm.
couple of days, staying in a hotel, you got to get there, you got to get bedding, you got to eat food that you're not cooking yourself. It's not a small endeavor.
Yes, okay. On that note, I've heard little things about this long distance travel and the USDF travel grant. Do you know anything about that? And if you do, how can that help people who have farther to travel?
Because I am not eligible for one, I don't know exactly how it works. But if you are from a state that is far and there's a specific list, there's one list where they give you, I think it's like $1,500 or $2,000, and then there's one list of states that are slightly closer where you get $1,000, and it's automatic. It is,
Wow.
and it's great, and that is wonderful that we are able to help, because we want everybody to be able to come, and we don't want, I'm hauling myself. It's going to take about 9 hours. It's going to cost me a couple $100 in fuel and my time.
Mhm.
Coming from the West Coast, I mean, it's got to be a 3-day drive, and that's just not something that everybody can do. So you're talking
Right.
about commercial haulers who don't work for free. It's a whole thing. And so the USDF very wisely has said, hey, we want to make this more accessible. Let's have some money available.
That's wonderful. I had west of the Mississippi as potentially one of the lines for qualifying for that grant, but
I
that's
think it's a little farther west, because like the drive from Iowa to Kentucky is less than I'm going to
yeah.
drive. But it is, yeah. Certainly all of the West Coast states, probably one more row inland.
Okay.
Yes. Consult USDF.org.
Okay, that's great to know. Let's talk about traveling because it is relevant for so many people here. We've done episodes on long hauls, but how do you prepare your horses, especially horses that have a big performance ahead of them for what'd you say your duration of trip is?
So Cadell will be on the trailer for about 9 hours, 8 or 9 hours. I'm anticipating 9 because, of course, it hasn't rained in weeks. And what's it going to do on Wednesday? Rain.
That's your day.
That's my day. So for me, I have taken Cadell on long trailer trips before, and I know that he is a nervous eater on the road. So for me, I give him a paste supplement by my sponsors at Tribute Equine Nutrition before he gets on the trailer. And then I will give him another dose when I get to the show because it's a pretty long way. I make sure that they have hay in front of them. 9 hours, I'm a little less worried about whether they're drinking on the road. I'll offer water at the 6 or so hour point, but I promise he will not drink it. Doesn't matter. Certainly, I will monitor his water intake very closely upon arrival. You then have to know your horse a little bit. And this is one of my favorite things as a high performance rider about a big horse show like this, is that this is an opportunity for me to test out how I manage my horse as I'm looking ahead and hoping that this is a horse that's going to go to festival and to international competition and maybe one day to European competition. I want to know what works and what doesn't. So I know that he feels like absolute trash after a day off, but I have to give him a day off, otherwise he is tired. So I am giving him tomorrow off, knowing that I will schlep for 8-9 hours and then pull him off the trailer and ride him. He will be terrible. And then I might do my championship class the next day. And I know this, and this is all going according to plan. So, woosah. If you don't know that, if you don't know that, well, you're about to learn. you're about to get a lesson in what your horse is like. And at the end of the day, there's no way to determine what your system is without experimenting with what your system is.
Yes, and what I really like about that is that first ride is not going to feel great, and that's according to plan. So you're not a ball of stress, and you're not not expecting him to be a certain way. Your face is saying that I'm saying all the wrong things.
Oh yeah, I'm totally not a ball of stress right now.
Okay, well, I can see why the whole situation would be stressful, but as you get to know your horse, you can they can be according to plan, and it's not like, how will this horse ever perform? Like, what the steps are to get him to the performance you're looking for, is what I meant.
I certainly think I might. We're going to find out if it works.
It's good to keep an eye on those things. And I think that, I'll speak for myself. As an amateur, I wasn't so, cognizant and tracking and treating it as an experiment as I could have been. I think that would really serve a lot of people. Let's talk about, I said logistics. We did entries, we did traveling. Is there anything to speak about stabling other than try to be in the indoor?
Certainly trying to be in the indoor stabling. You also need to know that all of the stalls of the Kentucky Horse Park, to the best of my knowledge, are on concrete floors. There is one designated provider of supplies on the showgrounds, which doesn't mean that you can't bring your own, but Dever, D-E-V-E-R, is the one that from whom you can buy a couple different types of hay, a couple different types of grain, bedding, and they also will rent stall mats. And certainly for me, I recommend renting the stall mats. It just makes the horses a little bit more comfortable. No matter how much bedding you put on top of a concrete floor, it's still bedding on top of a concrete floor. And the rental mats are vaguely a nuisance to set up, but I think that they allow for you to keep a cleaner stall and a more comfortable horse.
Are those things that you rent ahead of time or when you arrive at the show office?
I called, I don't know, a couple days ago. I didn't even call it. You can order them online, and you should order them in advance. They also, as part of the online entry form, they say, when are you coming in? When are you arriving? And I told them 6 hours before I'm actually planning on arriving. So maybe the stuff will be there before
I like that.
I get there. I would not hold my breath. You never know. But certainly I bought them a lot of time. I gave them a big window.
I like that. So these are the pro tips we're looking for. That's a great one. Okay, coaching. This also ties into the fact that finals take place in Kentucky, and not only are riders and horses everywhere, coaches are everywhere, and not everyone will be able to bring their coach. One, is that okay to not have your in-person coach, or are you doomed? Two, what other options do you have? Like, would you suggest calling a different coach who might be there, or doing it virtually, or what's the right approach, or not having a coach?
I think that you have to know yourself. So for me, I almost never have my coach with me. My coach lives in Florida. When I show in Florida, she's there. But honestly, if I'm going to one of the showgrounds, it's half an hour from her house. She's not coming. So I bring my Pivo with me everywhere I go. And I set my Pivo up at the arena. I use the Pivo system above the other systems because I don't need a cameraman, but my instructor can take over the robot and follow me even if there are other horses in the arena. And Allie has warmed me up at many different competitions in many states, all from her couch or wherever she happens to be at the time. I have also, as I mentioned, like I'm going to be teaching somebody for the first time at the national championships. I'm surprised that people want to try that, but I mean, I'll take your money, no problem. But I think that it is very important that you have someone that is aware of what we're doing. Like when I teach, I don't even remember this person's name, I'll look it up. When I teach Sally for the first time, I'm not going to reinvent Sally's wheel for her.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in that moment, what my job is to be a mirror that talks to them. Like, hey, that's too round. That's not round enough. That's too slow. That's too fast. Your left elbow is doing something weird. I know this. Lots and lots of people know this, but I'm going to guess that not everybody knows this. And so if you're going to call in a pinch hitter, you should have a conversation with them in advance. What do they need? What are things that their coaches, I'm going to try and talk to this person's coach before I coach her about like, what are things that you say that are really effective? Is she a nervous person? Is she a person who shuts down? Do I need to kick her ass? Do I need to tell her everything's going to be fine? These are things that with your normal person, you have that rapport already. But if you're going to call in a stranger, you might want to have that conversation in advance.
And if you're someone who has had your in-person coach at most of your shows, all of your important shows, but this one, it's not in the cards, is it just a matter of knowing yourself, whether you go at it alone or call in a pinch hitter or try to figure out Pivo?
I think that the best riders in the world still have coaches. For whatever reason, Allie couldn't warm me up one of my days at the regional championships. And so I had my assistant trainer watch me, whose name is also Allie, just to confuse the story. And I looked over at her at one point and she was going, because I do this for a living and I was moving at a snail's pace and it felt great. And she was like, my God, go faster. So, I mean, maybe I'm an idiot, but I don't think that I am, which means that if I can do this and still make mistakes riding off of feel alone, so can you.
Yes.
So I think having somebody there, and the Pivos, it's just freaking great. It's so easy. I can tell you that the Kentucky Horse Park has sufficient bandwidth. Not all horse shows do, but the Kentucky Horse Park does. It has good enough cellular reception that it is worth taking your time to do it. And also, the first time that you use your Pivo shouldn't be at the national championships. Practice.
I was just thinking the same thing. What a
Set it up
disaster that would be. And on Lauren's website, there's a blog post about how to do everything Pivo related. So head there first. And if you have questions, let us know in the Facebook group and we'll tag Lauren.
There you go. You're reminding me that I have to redo the video because they've updated the app since I made the video on how to set up. But it's close. You can do it.
It'll get you there.
It's not that hard. Yeah.
I appreciate so much how you won't, I'm going to say tech savvy, but you just like you embrace the tech and you make things simple and let us utilize tools like Pivo, which is a great help.
It's an amazing tool, and tools like Ride IQ too. Like if it's available to you, why would you not avail yourself of it?
Oh my God. Clip that audio. I love it. All right. We got a great question from Keegan in the Facebook group ahead of this conversation. It's about test memorization. She said, I feel like all of the qualifying tests i.e. first level 3, second level 3, etc., are like a million times longer than the other tests at the level. She said I had to listen to the dressage ride-alongs about 4,000 times to memorize first level test 3 for my last show. Are there any other tips that you have to memorize the test? She said my thoroughbred is way too smart, so I can't practice it a bunch because he becomes anticipatory and rushes.
Keegan. First of all, yes, you can practice and you can tell your horse to be on the aids. Second of all, first level test 3 is the stupidest test on the planet. And it is an anomaly in the regional in the test writing world. They bungled it so bad, and you need like a GPS unit and an abacus to find your way around that stupid test. So, and I showed it this year too. So like we all are in the same stupid leaky boat about first level test 3. With that said, I really am the biggest cheerleader on the planet for you can memorize your tests. You can memorize them. You have them. They give them to you every 4 years. You have 4 years to learn them. And it's like having the notes, doing an open book test and still not passing. Like you can memorize your tests. And when you practice them, for example, fourth level test 3 has the flying changes after the canter pirouettes in a place that I think is stupid. So I don't ride them there, except at the show, because they're in a place where my horse could very easily anticipate them. So I ride them later. You can be smart about how you train on these things, particularly if you have looked at the test in advance. I'm sorry, Keegan, I'm not picking on you. This is like a soapbox issue of mine. That there are ways that if your horse is getting anticipatory, that you need to be training smarter at home to practice your tests in a way that keeps your horse honest and on the aids.
We've struck a nerve.
Yeah, sorry. This is my one of the hills on which I will die. Is like
I love hearing about it. I think
gotta practice it.
It's important. I have not shown in dressage for 10 years, and I still have nightmares about forgetting my dressage test. So that is deeply ingrained. Okay, I think that was a great question. She had a follow-up, and I don't know if you're gonna like this one either. Are you allowed a test reader at finals or at regionals for that matter?
You are not, and that is the USDF rules. Also, in Lauren land, you're not allowed a reader ever, and I believe in you. You can memorize. Dumber people than you have memorized their tests. You can do it. And I say this, by the way, with nothing but sympathy for people with learning disabilities and people who, have a hard time memorizing stuff. You have made it this far in life. You have learned how you learn, which means that you can take that test and you can put it into a context of how you learn. You're a visual learner, then you're going to draw it out. You're a kinesthetic learner, then you are going to practice it at the walk 10 million times. Or you're going to like canter around your living room, which is how I usually memorize things. But you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it.
Everyone listening, we believe in you and your test memorization and your performances. Okay, back to once we're at finals, talk to us about what the rings are like. Is there anything that we should be aware of regarding the rings? I know that in Kentucky, like the Megatron can cause issues for people. I don't know if there's a Megatron in the mix at finals, indoor, outdoor. Tell us about it.
Yeah, there are a couple of jumbotrons with lights, big light boards. I have generally not found them to be problematic because they're mostly showing words. They're not doing like pictures and video. It's just like, here is Bob Jones and his horse Dobbin. They're representing Region 3. They're from Lexington,
no
Kentucky.
Clip of a jaguar lunging towards you.
No American flag flapping. With that said, the arenas are quite far from the barns. They are a real long walk from the heated barns, with the exception of the ring 1, which is the all-tech arena, which is where they put a couple of the FEI classes and then also all freestyles all the time. So you're going to be prepared to do some walking. There are also relatively small warm-up spaces considering how many people will be in them at any particular time. So if you and inevitably you have experienced this at your regional championships. Like we go to a couple of horse shows here in Virginia where there might be, 30, 40 horses at the show. At my regionals, there were 400 horses at the show. It's probably going to be a similar number for the finals. It can be a big, intimidating space. If your horse is a little funny about traffic, you need to know that in advance. Mostly you're just going to need to make sure you have really good walking shoes on because you're going to be walking a lot.
Okay, good tip. Um, if you get into the ring and your horse is lit up by the atmosphere, what if you were in these riders' ears when they're realizing like, "Oh, this is not the, like, calm, attentive horse I was hoping to have in this moment," what would you be saying?
Step one, check in with yourself. Horses are very, very energy affected. And this is a big horse show. This may be the biggest horse show and the most important horse show you, rider, have ever attended in your life. You might be nervous. It's okay. My hand to God, I've been having stress dreams for a week and a half. And I do this for a living, and I'm not a squeaky competitor. I'm a good competitor, and I still woke myself up from a nightmare in the middle of the night last night. So check in with yourself, take a breath. Then give your horse something to do. Here's a little sports psychology for you. If I tell you not to think about the color blue, what are you thinking about? The color blue. I don't know if horses think like that, but certainly people think like that. So if you get into the arena and you're like, "Oh, Dobbin, don't be nervous." What are you thinking about? Nervous. So give him something to do. "Hey, Dobbin, trot, walk, turn left, walk, leg yield, blah, 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 blah." And give him, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be like, "Great, let's go do the two tempies," but go to work. Breathe through it. Your horse will come back to you, or he won't. And this is the cool thing about the big horse shows like this. They are an incredibly important, unimportant thing. They hold them annually. If you blow it, then you blow it. Whatever. You might have another chance. Maybe you won't. But if you made it there, you can make it there again. And I promise that no matter what happens, you will leave the showgrounds smarter than you arrived on the showgrounds.
That's for sure. And mentioning sports psychology reminded me that there's plenty of content in the app about like anxiety, fear, getting yourself to a more zen place that would also be, I mean, might be good company for a 9-hour drive or however long your drive is, or whatever you're doing to prepare. But there's all sorts of resources, most of them by Natalie Hummel in the app, if that's something that you're dealing with. Little plug. Okay. Um, Next is when you qualify for finals, you qualify for a specific level. So you're doing that one test. And so you go there and that's your one test. Is there any practicing beforehand or opportunities outside of that single test while you're there?
There is an open national show that runs alongside this championship. So, yeah, you could enter a warm up class. You could enter multiple warm up classes if you wanted. I would say this is where you have to know you and your horse. For example, I have a championship on Thursday. The show starts on Thursday, so I'm out of luck. But frankly, even if the show started on Wednesday, I still personally wouldn't, because one of my championship classes is Thursday and one of them is on Saturday. And keeping a fresh horse for that period of time is hard. I am not entered in a class on Friday for the same reason. I want to be able to school. I want to be able to make whatever decisions I want to make based on how Cadeau feels when I get out there on Friday. At my regional championships, my plan was to give him like a nice fluffy day in between my two championship classes. And I got on and he went, and I said, "Okay, never mind, going to go work." We'll see if that happens this time around. But for me, that was the choice that I made. I've been horse showing a really long time, and I don't get weird about test riding. If you get weird about test riding, go practice your test. If your horse is a little sound sensitive and you're there to do a musical freestyle, enter a warm-up freestyle class the day before. Let your horse go get his stupid out about the noise If your horse has never been in a big indoor arena, same deal. The freestyle classes, even the lower level amateur freestyle classes, are in that big ass indoor. If you or your horse might get a little deer in the headlights about it, enter a warm up class.
Okay. So those open classes are those things that you enter with your entry, or you do it like as you're there
Nope,
with
you
your entry?
enter with your entry, all of them at the same time. And the USDF website, I don't find it hard to navigate. Um, oh boy, we are about to kill my computer. I'm going to turn off my ring light. You all are going to just have to acknowledge that now I'm sitting in the dark. Okay. Yes, you enter the show all at one time.
Okay. Good to know. That's nice that there's an option for those open classes. And are those open classes generally just for people who are competing, like qualified and competing at finals, or can sometimes people can come in?
I think people can come in. I think that people, random strangers can come and do the open show. It's November in Kentucky. It's going to be pretty gross, so
Yeah,
most people won't. I think the locals are probably fairly done for the year.
that makes sense. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about is kind of the other things that could be on people's mind about attending this event. What do you think about, because it's a big deal and it's something that we've all everyone, I'm speaking in the we of all of us going to finals, even though I'm not going, that we've all worked hard for. Um, should we bring our families? What is our family going to do if we're just riding that, 6-minute test over the course of several days? What are your thoughts on that, and how have you seen it go for people?
I think Lexington is an awesome town. Lexington is a proper city, and the downtown area has really good restaurants. There's good shopping. There are parks all over the place. It's also a college town. If you're into sports, UK has a pretty good basketball program, I think. And it's a fun place. And if you are a drinker, the Bourbon Trail, very, very fun to go and do. With that said, my rule is that I would so much rather have my spouse not be there if he doesn't want to be there, because I would rather have him not there than have him there and not want to be there. And so, like, you get to decide whether you feel that way or not. You're an adult, but certainly having to entertain someone who maybe is only there to humor you, I would find annoying. The other thing is that most of the show will be available to watch on either a live stream or recorded after the event. I need to double check that, but I believe that certainly the indoor arena is open on a live stream. So your family could watch from home. If they are going to bother you, if having them there is going to stress you out, then don't bring them, and it's okay. Or tell them they're going to have to entertain themselves, and that is okay. One of the things that is awesome about dressage is that we know when we're going to go, so they can show up 10 minutes before. They can say, "Sweetheart, you look great," and then they can leave, if that is how they show their support.
Right. All great insights. And it still boggles my mind that other disciplines, we won't name any names, but that there is not a specific time. That's like, you are going at some point today. But hats off to you guys who make that work and are much more patient than I probably am. Okay, we're coming up toward the end. You've taught me so much, but I want to just check in with you. Did I miss anything about finals or the pathway to finals that I should have touched on to help folks who are thinking about this and might aim for finals or might even be headed to finals this week?
If you are thinking that this is the sort of thing that you might want to go to one day, you can come and watch, right? You can come and spectate, and you can see some good riding. Um, it's just such a fun horse show. There's amazing shopping. Because all of the country's best vendors are there. There's a couple of competitor parties that are really fun. We don't rage like the event riders do. But it's kind of fun to connect with people from all over the country. For me, I grew up in the youth high performance program. So like I went to the Young Rider Championships. This horse show is one of the only times I get to see all of my friends that I did Young Riders with from all over the country. and we get to catch up. We get to network. Maybe we drink a little bourbon. Probably not like the event riders do, but it's been known to happen.
That's amazing.
And it's just fun. And it's not, horse showing isn't always fun. It's nice when it's fun.
Oh, I feel warm and fuzzy just thinking about it. That is awesome. And spectating, I'm like, is there still time for me to go?
I've got
but
an
I am
extra bed in
really
my
glad.
hotel room with your name on it. Come on out.
And there's a baby.
Oh, that one.
That might impact your performance. I loved this conversation, and truly, like, thank you so much. I know this was not like the lightest lift of topics that we could have chosen, but it became apparent very quickly to me how important this conversation is, because there's so many intricacies. And the fact that Sloan has a whole document with all of these questions and answers just goes to show you there's a lot of confusion around it, and understandably so. So Lauren, you're wonderful. We'll be cheering for you. Will yours be on, like, are you in the indoor?
I am not. You are reminding me that one of my jobs today was to look up whether you could watch me on the live stream, and I forgot. So
okay, well, if you
I'll have to report back.
Okay, that would be great if you report back. I'll do some investigating too. I know Sloan's on the live stream because she's doing a freestyle, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be some Ride IQ people that we can watch, and I'm sure we can find all of that on the interwebs. But I'll be watching as much as I can, and definitely thinking about you and Godot and sending you so many good vibes. I hope it goes great.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for everything, Lauren.
Bye.
We did it.
Woohoo!
You're a legend. Thank you so much. I was like, oh my God, I see what my ask was now.
That's fine. And this was awesome, truly, because like I'm so fried. It was so nice to have a distraction.
Oh, it's amazing that this is not taxing for you compared to the other things that you've got going on.
It's fine.
All right. Well, I'll be thinking about you for the show, but also like good vibes tomorrow too. I think it'll be a happy day. Please, God.
I'm trying not to get excited, because then disappointment will really hurt. Sloan says we're still live. Hey, Sloan.
This is my first time.